on America Tonight.
Amazing grace.
As the president honors victims of a racially motivated mass shooting, we look at a long legacy of slavery.
I found fingerprints right here. I find these things.
You'd never know. These are the fingerprints of the slave that
made that particular brick.
Also tonight, love wins. Meet two dads behind a landmark decision by the U.S. Supreme Court in favor of same-sex marriage. Look at your dads right now. What do you want to say to them?
I'm really proud of you for doing this for everyone.
And good evening. Thanks for joining us. I'm Adam May, sitting in for Joey Chen tonight. What a day at the U.S. Supreme Court. Think of this. Just 1 decade ago, states were passing constitutional amendments banning same-sex marriage, and now it's the law of the land. Few social issues have seen such a dramatic, fast switch, so many people are asking, why this one? A lot say it's the children of gay and lesbian parents that turned this debate on its heels. For the last few months, I've been following the story of 2 Kentucky dads that have been leading the charge for equality. And today, we witnessed their family win at the Supreme Court. History made at the Supreme Court. Same-sex marriage legalized in all 50 states. Celebration, joy, and a sense of awe took center stage after a legal fight that's been decades in the making. Greg Bork and Michael DeLeon were plaintiffs in the Supreme Court case. The Kentucky couple said they were fighting for their kids. It was an emotional moment for daughter Bella. Look at your dads right now. What do you want to say to them?
I'm really proud of you for doing this for everyone.
Their case was called Bork v. Bashir. Legal analysts predicted their appeal would be the Roe v. Wade of same-sex marriage, the case that would go to the U.S. Supreme Court. It did.
We certainly didn't think that we would be a case going to the Supreme Court. We thought that that would be played out long before us. There were so many other states in the queue before us, and we really thought, well, this is going to get settled before Kentucky makes it to the Supreme Court. And sure enough, all the other circuits have favor of marriage equality, except for the Sixth Circuit, obviously. So we're shocked.
The Sixth Circuit is often called unpredictable, and it was here that DeLeon and Bork lost their appeal. The Federal Appeals Court had upheld the same-sex marriage bans in 4 states: Kentucky, Michigan, Ohio, and Tennessee. In the only appeals court ruling that upheld bans, Judge Jeffrey Sutton wrote, "By creating a status of marriage, the states created an incentive for 2 people who procreate together for purposes of rearing offspring. Couples of the same sex do not have children in the same way as couples of opposite sexes." That's obvious to Michael and Greg. They adopted their 2 children, Bella and Isaiah. They've had to jump through numerous legal hoops to try and duplicate the legal protections automatically granted heterosexual parents, complicated by Kentucky adoption laws that don't treat same-sex couples equally.
It's been a challenge over the years. Even before we had children, we had to go to extraordinary means to kind of marriage in terms of legal rights. But with children, it goes to a whole different level. We've had to set one of us up as a legal guardian so that Michael's the adoptive parent of our 2 children. I'm the legal guardian. There are many things that have had to be taken into account because we don't have that legal status as being married.
Despite all the work that you've done to drop all these legal agreements, are you still lacking the same rights as heterosexual couples here?
Very much so. But the big thing for us is to be able to put both of our names on their birth certificates as their parents.
Because you don't have that right now.
We
right.
can't.
We're still prohibited from doing that. That's really what's motivating us. This is why we wanted to sue for marriage equality, because we've been parenting these children together for 16 years, and still, as far as the state of Kentucky is concerned, I have no legal claim, no legal status. I am a legal guardian, but you know,
but your name's not on their birth certificate.
It's not on their birth certificate, and they would,
right?
well, they would tell you that, yes. So, you know, these are things that are important to us. And that's
in typical teenage fashion, Isaiah backed up his fathers.
You want to jump in here for a minute?
Isaiah, you want to talk?
About what?
Whatever this guy wants to ask. This is Adam.
Isaiah, what's it like to have two dads in the state of Kentucky?
Kind of awesome. These two awesome dudes have been parenting me since I was 3 years old, and everything that I am, the reason why I am the man today is because of these two beautiful, handsome young gentlemen.
He really laid on thick.
He must want to borrow some money or something.
Yeah.
If something were to happen to Michael, and Greg has no legal rights to his children, and that doesn't make sense for anyone. I mean, these people raised these children. When I look at them, I see a family. It doesn't matter.
Shannon Faber is part of the legal team representing Greg and a handful of other Kentucky couples who also sued. Many of the couples are already married in other jurisdictions. For example, Greg and Michael actually tied the knot in Ontario on the Canadian side of Niagara Falls back in 2004. But that marriage meant nothing in the state of Kentucky.
Our clients refer to it as Kentucky married and federally married. You're not Kentucky married, you were just federally married.
What's the real impact on that for clients that you represent?
Our clients can't both be the legal parents of the children they've adopted or that they have together.
It is a perfectly reasonable position to think that a child grows up best in a home with a mother and a father. It's reasonable for government to encourage that.
Martin Cothran, a conservative Christian writer, helped lead the campaign 10 years ago to ban same-sex marriage in Kentucky. The 2004 constitutional amendment passed with 74% of the vote, one of the highest votes against marriage equality in the nation. His group, the Family Foundation of Kentucky, filed an amicus brief in Bork v. Bashir.
There's no reason why Kentuckians should have to rely on California to make our marriage policy.
Or 37 other states.
Or 37 other states, which could conceivably be struck down.
Do you want the Supreme Court to strike down all the marriages?
No, I just want the Supreme Court to allow states to set their own marriage policy.
But now a majority of the Supreme Court and the President see this change differently.
This morning, the Supreme Court recognized that the Constitution guarantees marriage equality. In doing so, they've reaffirmed that all Americans are entitled to the equal protection of the law. That all people should be treated equally, regardless of who they are or who they love.
So you go back to Kentucky. How does life change?
I'm not sure that it will. I mean, I'm supposed to work on Monday, so we'll see how that goes.
You have to work, you have to parent, you got to bring these kids around?
Yeah,
Exactly.
I've got garlic that I need to dig up and some onions. And
After all, fighting for marriage was really about fighting for normalcy in everyday life.
I feel like now people don't have to hide the fact that that's who they are.
Joining us now is California Congressman Mark Takano, an openly gay member of Congress from California. Thanks so much for joining us. You were out there on the steps of the courthouse early this morning. You watched that decision come down. What was going through your mind when you saw what was actually happening there?
Oh, gosh. I don't know that I was thinking very much, but just absorbed in the moment. I was standing in front of a gay men's chorus, and as the interns from the Supreme Court, these young people, run copies of the decision down to the press corps, they started singing the Star-Spangled Banner.
Did you anticipate this result from the Supreme Court? Do you think there was any question?
There was a little tiny bit of a question in my mind of what would happen, and they could have ruled in slightly different ways, but I think as soon as the crowd heard that Justice Kennedy was reading the decision, that was enough of a signal to the crowd and to those of us in the know that this decision was going to be good.
So as a member of Congress, does this once and for all put gay, lesbian members of our country on an equal footing with everyone else,
well,
now that marriage rights have been granted?
Well, the Supreme Court threw a huge, big wedding bouquet out to same-sex couples, the gay couples all over the country. But I have to say, they're gonna rightly want to get married. Some are getting married now, and as soon as they post pictures of their weddings on Facebook, many of these people in many parts of our country are going to face the prospect of being fired from their jobs, being evicted by their landlords, and possibly in some states, and there's governors, some legislatures threatening this, that they may not be treated fairly in stores.
You're talking about discrimination that still exists in some parts of the country. What can we do about that on the congressional level?
The congressional level is that we can act on, as soon as we introduce it in this session, the Comprehensive LGBT Civil Rights Act. And this act would be what we used to call ENDA plus. ENDA was...
Would this address the issues of housing? Would this address the issues of discrimination in the workplace?
All of the above. All of the above. That's what we're trying. That's why we're calling it the comprehensive.
Does it have the support to get through a Republican-led Congress?
Well, procedurally, no. Procedurally, just as with, say, the immigration bill that passed the Senate on a bipartisan basis, the majority of the House, the Republicans in the House, can procedurally stop that legislation from being considered on the floor, even though there's possibly a coalition of House members that would probably vote it into law. We have a pro-equality, LGBT equality majority in the House if we can...
If leadership allows it to make it on the floor. If leadership allows it to make it to the floor. All right. Well, that sounds like the next battleground in the gay rights movement. Congressman, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Adam.